Right now on Denver 7 News at 4, a jury finds Steve Bannon guilty of contempt. What's ahead now for the former advisor to Donald Trump?
Artists of color are not well represented in country music. How a first-of-its-kind music label is part of the effort to get more of these artists played on the radio. And small-town general stores were a staple of our communities. We'll show you the unique model that is now working to bring more of them back.
And it's a scorcher of a day here in Colorado, and it's keeping some Boulder volunteers busy.
We took pictures by the creek, and we were trying to figure out where was cooler and where was hotter.
And we start today with that weather action day. We can see a few clouds there on the horizon from our camera here at Denver 7, but the temperatures are still well into the 90s, and they're going to stay that way for the majority of tonight. Meteorologist Stacey Donaldson standing by with the details. Stace, it's 4 o'clock, and thermometers are still climbing in some places.
They are. Temperatures well into the 90s. As you mentioned, we have a heat advisory in effect for the entire metro area until 8 o'clock tonight, so it will continue to be warm for the next few hours. Right now we have 95 degrees outside with that cloud cover off to our west. We have a few scattered thunderstorms into the foothills. Our heat index, though, 90 degrees is what it feels like outside with only that 12% humidity, which is making it a little more comfortable out there with these very warm temperatures. Not a lot of humidity for us here for the Front Range and the Plains, but it's still in the triple digits from Ray to Burlington, mid to upper 90s from Denver up toward Greeley and Fort Collins, and mostly 80s for the high country with triple digits out toward Grand Junction. Right here around Metro Denver, we have 95 downtown and at the airport, 99 in Erie, and even 97 in Boulder. Hot weather all across the Front Range and the Eastern Plains. Our average high this time of year is only 91. We'll be closer to that record this afternoon, which is 102 set back in 2005. So scattered thunderstorms off to our west. Those are pushing eastward, but as they get closer to Denver, they really fall apart. It's very dry in the lower levels of the atmosphere for us, and we have this heat advisory in effect through this evening for highs near 100 degrees. So it'll still be a warm night for us here in Denver. Temperatures in the low 90s through 7 o'clock and then 80s after that. So yes, whatever you're doing outside, it's going to be nice weather-wise, a little on the warm side, but we'll talk about how long this hot weather is going to stick around coming up.
All right, thank you, Stacey. We'll check back in with you in just a little bit. Well, while you may want to ride out this heat indoors with the AC just cranked way up, there's a group of volunteers sweating it out in the name of science, mapping heat and humidity in Boulder. Now, the goal to see where the hot and dry weather poses the most risk in Boulder County. These volunteers have been traveling with sensors by car, by bike, and by foot, recording the temperature, heat, and humidity throughout the area. They're looking for what they call heat islands.
We walked around Boulder and we took different data. We took temperature data and infrared pictures of different surfaces, so like asphalt, grass. We took pictures by the creek, and we were trying to figure out where was cooler and where was hotter.
The city says they will use this data collected today to determine where it's best to use natural climate solutions like trees, gardens, and green spaces, things that don't cost much but do a lot to help reflect the heat. The results should be available in about 6 weeks. All this hot sun may have you thinking more about solar energy. With the cost of energy going up, solar panels are becoming an increasingly popular option in Colorado. But it's not just individual homes installing those solar panels on their roofs. There are more than 100 solar farms in the state. The solar panels aren't placed on homes, but in a nearby spot, and then 10 or more homes get their energy from the farm and pay into it. Solar co-ops are another way to save. That's where a group of homeowners buy solar panels together to get a discounted bulk purchase price. So which one is right for you?
There are a lot of different solar options here in Colorado, and it comes down to a couple of things. One, how long will I be in my house, and can my house actually take solar on its roof?
So how old your house is, how much sunlight it gets, and how much energy you use each month are all factors to consider. The bottom line, though, is there are a lot of options for solar power these days in our state.
More than 80 million people from coast to coast are dealing with extreme heat today. The heat is expected to intensify this weekend in the Northeast. Record high temperatures forecast from New York City to Boston. National Weather Service says more than 60 daily high temperature records have been tied or broken this week alone across the country. Now, with this record-breaking heat, foodborne illnesses are something else that we do need to keep in mind. Those illnesses skyrocket during the summer months. New research shows that climate change is putting food safety more at risk.
Just looking at the data, there are more days of higher heat in the United States than we had in the past. So while we certainly have had hot weather, at all times in the United States, those days are getting worse.
Now, pathogens that cause foodborne infections thrive in warm temperatures. Foods like dairy, meat, and eggs are some of the most vulnerable.
Try to plan in advance. So, we know heat waves are happening generally several days before they're actually going to happen in a certain location.
Now, the extreme heat is just part of the problem. Strong storms and wildfires are also triggering power outages across the country, which impact how food is both handled and stored. But there are ways to protect yourself at home. The USDA says your fridge will keep food safe for up to 4 hours during an outage. That's as long as you keep the door closed. Frozen food will stay good for up to 48 hours. Now, climate change is increasing the flood risk in many parts of the country, but rising costs for flood insurance could keep more people from getting coverage. 1 million fewer people may buy federal flood insurance by the end of the decade, according to a report out by FEMA that was obtained by the Associated Press. FEMA recently revamped its flood insurance program to more accurately reflect the risk of flooding. The agency told Congress that enrollment numbers were expected to go up, but the documents that the AP received show that FEMA is projecting a decline. FEMA says the assumptions in the reports are pessimistic. Today, Russia and Ukraine signed separate agreements with Turkey and the United Nations to get grain moving again. The deal lets Ukraine export 22 million tons of grain and other agricultural products that have been stuck in the Black Sea because of Russia's invasion. Now, the grain not being exported has been threatening food security around the world. Ukraine is one of the world's largest exporters of both wheat and corn. Today, President Biden's doctor says his COVID symptoms are improving one day after he tested positive. The president did have a mild fever last night, but it's okay today. His doctor says he still has a runny nose, fatigue, and an occasional cough, but says there is no concern for his health. The president has been taking the antiviral drug Paxlovid. He is fully vaccinated and boosted twice. Now, access to some professional licenses is expanding, with companies still struggling to get enough workers.
To me, having this opportunity of obtaining a license, professional license, it's my whole career, it's my whole dream.
The careers that she and other immigrants are getting a chance to break into now.
And after the break, Stacey tells us when we can finally expect a cool off from all of this heat. And a Denver icon getting a new home. Find out where the classic Denver Diner sign is headed next.